Before running for president in 2023, then sitting vice president and to-be presidential candidate Lai Ching-te proposed a five-pronged energy strategy aimed at achieving net zero carbon emission by 2050. During a press conference on his policy platform, dubbed the National Project of Hope, he emphasized that sustainability and a stable power supply are prerequisites for the net zero transition. The first step in Lai's proposal is a focus on alternative energy generation from sources such as geothermal, hydrogen, and biomass. In 2024, when President Tsai Ing-wen received delegation from the New Zealand Parliament, aside from highlighting the increasingly close economic ties between Taiwan and New Zealand, Tsai mentioned that she looked forward to furthering exchanges in the fields of digital economy, indigenous culture, and clean energy. In response, representatives from New Zealand highlighted their expertise in geothermal energy technology, offering potential collaboration in clean energy. It's clear that geothermal energy has been in a common narrative and an agreed-upon goal of the Democratic Progressive Party. Now, in 2025, Taiwan, in collaboration with Academia Sinica, has started drilling its first deep thermal well in Yuanshan Township, Yilan County. This is a big move, and the whole operation is expected to take about 18 months. Now, Taiwan isn't new to geothermal energy. In fact, it's sitting on a pretty massive resource. The country's shallow geothermal energy potential is around 1 gigawatt. That's already a lot, but when you look deeper or dig deeper, that number jumps to a potential 40 gigawatts. And according to Economic Affairs Minister, Taiwan's realistic goal has the capacity to develop about 10 gigawatts of that. Basically, that's enough energy to power millions of homes. And why Yilan? Well, of course, if you've ever visited, you know that the area is famous for its hot springs. Those hot underground reservoirs make it a prime location for geothermal development. Plus, Yilan is already home to the successful Qingshui geothermal power plant, proving that the region is a natural fit for this kind of energy production. And get this, if the drilling projects work out, it won't be a one-off. The government seeks potential for up to 1,000 geothermal wells across Taiwan. That would be a game changer for the island's energy landscape. So, is geothermal the next big thing for Taiwan? If this project delivers on its promise, we could be looking at a future where geothermal energy plays a major role in Taiwan's clean energy mix. Definitely something to keep an eye on. Today, we'll be doing just that. I'm your host, Joey Chou, and this is Beyond the Reefs. Hi, you're listening to Beyond the Reefs, a show produced by Radio Taiwan International. Here we talk about the socio-economic issues that are faced by Taiwan and their broader impacts around the world, beyond the reefs of this island nation. In our exploration of Taiwan's geothermal energy landscape, it's essential to highlight the role of Baseload Power Taiwan as a subsidiary of Baseload Capital, a specialized investment company funding geothermal projects worldwide. Baseload Power Taiwan is at the forefront of developing sustainable energy solutions on the island. By harnessing geothermal energy, which provides a constant power supply regardless of weather conditions, Baseload Power Taiwan is contributing to Taiwan's journey towards energy independence and its 2050 net zero goal. And today, we speak with the CEO of Baseload Power Taiwan, Van Huan.
Yes, so I was born in Macau. I grew up in Sweden, so I have a master's degree in mechanical engineering. I also have an MBA degree from Jiaotong University in Taiwan. So much focus on engineering projects or businesses and leading these kind of businesses for growth. Of course, I have a strong interest in sustainability. It's the flag or pole position for Sweden on a global level. So, and also I'm very interested in renewable energy. Mm-hmm. That's the reason I joined Baseload Power.
Oh, wow. Okay, so you are the perfect combination of talent to do exactly what you ended up doing. Because for those of you, for the uninitiated, Tai Qingjiao, so that's Taida University, Qingda University, and Jiaoda, which is where Van is went to school. These are the three major universities that produce some of the best and most talented engineers and tech people, or tech talents in Taiwan. You grew up in Sweden, you said, and Sweden, of course, being one of of the more eco-friendly countries around the world. So I guess, okay, that leads the way into what exactly does baseload power Taiwan do?
Yes, so we are a geothermal power developer. So we develop geothermal power plants to produce renewable energy. Basically, simply as that.
Okay, how long has the company been around?
In Taiwan for 4 years. We belong to a group, baseload power group globally. So we have subsidiaries in Iceland, Japan, US, and headquarters is in Sweden. So the company has been for 5 years. So it's a young company.
Oh, 5 years for the whole company, and you spent the last 4 here in Taiwan with a branch here.
That's correct.
Oh, wow. Okay. So does that say quite a lot about Taiwan's geothermal power?
Yes, Taiwan has a huge potential in geothermal power. It's on the Ring of Fire. And for the Asia-Pacific Ring of Fire, ranging from Japan in the north, passing through Taiwan, the Philippines, Indonesia, and to New Zealand, there are already 800 megawatts to over 2,000 megawatts of geothermal power that are installed and producing electricity. And Taiwan just started a couple of years ago, or recommissioned the first power plant 2 years ago.
Okay, and as we're in the Ring of Fire, how do we compare to other countries that are in the Ring of Fire? Like, do you see a major geological advantage for Taiwan compared to other places?
Yes, Ring of Fire, it means on this area, there are tectonic plates that are colliding. That's why there's a lot of earthquake in Taiwan. Also, of course, in these other countries that I just mentioned. Taiwan has an active volcano in Yaminsan. Taiwan has a lot of hot springs, so a lot of outcrops with where you can see hot water on the surface. And based on this data, where the government has identified several areas, more than 27 areas, where they see the temperature is above 100 degrees, where actually you can develop geothermal power energy production.
Okay, and just kind of briefly, and for someone who's uninitiated, exactly how do you turn geopower and energy into electricity?
So we find an area where there are heat source power. So there are hot water subsurface that we drill for instance, a couple hundred meters up to 3,000 meters, where we pump up the water, extract the heat. So you have a well, 1,000 meter deep, for instance, you pump up the water and then extract the heat to a heat exchange. So they're like a binary cycle. And then when you extract the heat, it will turn into steam where it moves the turbine and then it produces electricity. And the water cools down to around 70, 80 degrees and it get injected again back to the reservoir, which the reservoir is very hot and they get heated again, and then you pump it up again. So it's like a closed loop system that generates energy for, more or less forever, for a very long time.
Interesting. Okay, so the water is the conducting agent, and you basically pump it up to use the heat, and then you pump it back down for Mother Earth to heat it up again.
That's correct.
How wide is this well? And I'm guessing you need 2 sets of tubes for it to come up and go down. And what are some of the measurements, just so we can get an idea?
So a well size, it depends, but say 6 to 12 inches. So it's the size of a pizza and that you eat. So you need one production well where you pump up, and you need one reinjection well to get the water down again. Yeah, it's simple as that. And
Oh, that's not big at all.
So the footprint is extremely small. So for a geothermal power plant with 1 megawatt energy production, it only requires the size of a tennis court that you can produce energy, 1 megawatt, for 1,000 households use of electricity for 1 year. Yeah. So for producing the same energy, it requires 100 times the space or the footprint for a solar farm, and 1,300 for an onshore wind. Yeah, so it's extremely efficient for your thermal power to produce energy.
Oh my gosh. Okay, and what about the scale? Like, is it scalable? Because you say that there are many locations that are potential candidates for geothermal energy extraction, but can you actually keep on digging these wells in all of these locations? And let's say if there's a maximum amount of energy that you can extract in Taiwan.
Yes. So for the energy administration or the Taiwanese government, they have identified 27 areas. So on a shallow depth, up to 2,000 meters or down to 2,000 meters, to be correct. There's a potential 1,000 megawatts or 1 gigawatt. And for the full potential in Taiwan is actually 40 gigawatt. And currently Taiwan is using 60 gigawatts. So 2/3 of the energy need in Taiwan can be powered by geothermal power. It's a huge potential in Taiwan.
Yeah, that's right. And how much of Taiwan's power is from geothermal at this point?
It's actually less than 2% because the industry is just emerging. It's only 7.2 megawatt installed, and the first power plant was recommissioned 2 years ago. But in the pipeline, there are 24 projects that are ongoing. And in the coming years, the projection is that there will be around additional 60 megawatt that will be installed, and it will continue to grow.
Okay, so far it's about 2%.
Less than 1%.
Less than 1%, but there is a potential for it to grow up to a third, you said, right? So 33%.
A 2/3.
Oh, 2/3, 66%.
Yeah. There's a study called the Solution Project.
Yeah.
Led by Stanford University. It's a think tank. They work together with MIT and etc. They're the think tank for the US government. So they did a project for US, how it will look like by 2050 if the renewable energy mix is 100% renewable energy. They did the same for Taiwan. So if you look at Taiwan 2050, if 100% is renewable energy, 40.3% can be geothermal power. And for wind and solar, it's around 20 or less than 20%. So there's enormous potential for the geothermal power in Taiwan if we can tap the whole resource.
Yeah, because like you said, solar and wind, be it onshore or offshore, they all take a lot of land mass or just a lot of area in general. Mm-hmm. And I know that solar energy currently is the most sizable renewable energy source in Taiwan, but it is, in fact, like you said, taking up a lot of space. So geothermal energy has a lot of potential. So I guess naturally the next question is how many companies can actually manage to, put up the upfront cost for geothermal station? Because you said it's no bigger than a tennis court. Like a size of a tennis court is able to generate up to 1 megawatt a year, which is going to power thousands of homes. But does it cost a lot to set up a geothermal station? And if it does, how does it compare to, say, offshore wind or, say, solar panels?
It depends how you calculate, but roughly you could put like 10 million US per megawatt. So the upfront risk that you just mentioned or challenge is actually the exploration, meaning if you compare to oil and gas industry, you need to drill a lot of wells and you need to do a proper exploration to understand the subsurface, to see how the reservoir look like, the power capacity, the form and how the water flows. You need to understand it. So the drilling part can be that you fail, so the upfront risk is higher, meaning that not many companies that doesn't understand industry go into industry to invest in this because of the initial risk. So of course, being a pure geothermal developer, we have talents within this industry that understand and have done this before. So we minimize the risk as much as possible to do this exploration work. But of course, there's a risk towards the industry as such.
Okay, so it's hard to say exactly how much because there's also time investment, right? You have to do a lot of research and study, on-site research, I guess, to find out if this is an ideal location for it. Once you located a well or a reservoir, like you said, and start digging, it doesn't cost a lot of money, I'm guessing, to start.
So if you're lucky in the beginning, you identify the reservoir, you know where the upflow could be, where the heat source is, and then the outflow, where also there are possibility to produce. If you hit it, then you start from that first well and expand close by it, because the heat source is close by the upflow area. So in that way, you can minimize the risk of how you plan to develop a geothermal power plant in that area. So the area, of course, can become bigger. The more data you have, the more information you have about the surface structure and how it works. So there are power plants, of course, starting with only a couple kilowatts, to give energy for basic lights in the beginning. If you look at cases in the Philippines or even Italy, where the first power plant were built in 1906, And today, these two places I just mentioned, the same power plant is producing over 800 megawatts. So we can scale it by tapping into shallow depth to start with, because the risk is lower, cost is lower, and then you go deeper to tap the more potential from the reservoir.
Okay, the more you dig, the better you get at it, and the more you can scale the business. And just maybe for our listeners, some numbers in their head. Like, for example, have you, for the projects that you've started, just, a ballpark figure. You don't have to give me really exact numbers, but, what are the costs for some of these digging operations? Like, where can they sit at?
Yes, just to look at the digging or a well?
Just to look at the digging, yeah, because I'm sure there's also setting up a station and then connecting it to a power grid. That's another question entirely, right?
Yeah, of course. It depends on the size of the well, like I mentioned, 6 to 12 inches, and it depends on the depth. But you can ballpark figures is around $3 to $5 million per well. So it's high upfront cost to do the digging.
Okay, but like you said, once you've located a reservoir, you can probably start digging close to it as well.
Right.
And then that's where the resource becomes scalable. Okay, one last question, Van. Taiwan Strait is known to have a lot of wind. Like, it's got a wind channel going through between Taiwan and China, which is the main reason why there are a lot of wind farm manufacturers here in Taiwan. Some of the most well-known companies from Northern Europe are here. When it comes to geothermal energy, are there a lot of companies setting up shop here in Taiwan? And is this like kind of sort of a new business for them, or new candidate, a new location for them to explore here in Taiwan?
It's very new, I would say. So as a foreign companies, it's only us being here, and there are some local companies, and they are government-owned companies that are in the geothermal space. And the Taiwanese government set up a goal in 2016. By 2025, they should reach 200 megawatts geothermal power production. They have a good feed-in tariff level, and they have some incentives. That's the reason we entered Taiwan. But the thing is with Taiwan is that there's no geothermal law. It's operating currently under the law of the mining law and also the hot spring law, which makes it very complicated, time-consuming. The permitting process is not there. But it has been some changes this year where a geothermal act under the Renewable Energy Act is approved. And they're working on the details of the act that will be announced anytime now, and it will be enforced early on next year. So I think it's becoming easier to do exploration with the permitting process. It will go a bit quicker, and also developing geothermal power. So we're really looking forward to the new act that will be enforced. But we still think it's a long way to go, because for countries, mature markets with heavy geothermal law, it's when it can accelerate the industry. And for Taiwan, of course, I mentioned about this possible 40 gigawatt, two-thirds of the energy need for Taiwan. If they have a law, then things will move much, much faster.
Yeah, that's true. Just quickly make sure that I heard you right. You said by 2030, the Taiwanese government wished to achieve 200 megawatts, right?
2025.
2025. By 2025, 200 megawatts from geothermal.
And they're not there yet, yeah.
But we're not there yet, of course.
Yeah.
Wind energy, for example, is facing now a problem where Taiwanese government is quite insistent on localization, to have Taiwanese companies do it. Do you see that happening in geothermal yet? We're trying to develop our own team.
We haven't seen it yet. For us, it's important that the right competencies and the right technologies are used. If that is available in Taiwan,
yeah,
of course, we can cooperate with local vendors and contractors. If not, then for us, it's important to get the right state-of-the-art technologies and know-how to develop the industry.
Okay.
So yeah,
Understood.
That's what we aim for.
Okay. Sounds like up and rising, energy source here in Taiwan, and we're very excited about it. Thank you so much for speaking with us today. We had a chance to speak with the chairperson and CEO of Base Load Power Taiwan, Van Huan, and thank you for taking our interview.
Thank you, Joey. Have a nice day.
And that concludes our conversation with Van Huan as we look forward to Taiwan's future development in geothermal energy. I'm Joey Chou, and this is Beyond the Reefs.